sometimes we have to have the ability to get ahead of a team and put a team away, and we still cannot do that outside of the lowest level teams that we've played. And that is frustrating. Michigan State, those should have been games that we should have put away earlier. In my opinion, if we are where we need to be in year 3, we should have put those games away, but we were fighting for our lives in those games, and
both of those games, you had 2-score leads. You blew it twice in each game, actually.
So the killer instinct still isn't there. And it's just a matter of I think at this point in year 3, the fact that it's it's on me, but it's on the players, but it's on the assistants. It's I still think there's no clear identification of where we need to improve, because basically what he did is he came out and said everything was bad, which we know, right? We know that. But give us a more direct answer than that, because we knew the tackling was bad. We knew the running the bad. We knew that stuff. Don't tell us what we already know. Tell us what we're doing to fix it besides I don't know, I don't know. And it's how we respond, but what are we doing to respond better? How are you holding Donovan Raiola's ass to the fire? What is going to improve? It's not just it's up to the players to now respond. No, but tell us what's going to be different, because again, this wasn't just a 1-week thing. And I understand how you respond from a loss says everything. And, I still think this is an 8-win team. Call me crazy. I still think this is an 8-win team. That has to start this week. And Northwestern is a top 25 defensive team, albeit they're not going to be just some pushover easy test. We're a touchdown favorite. So what? We were 10
They're
point
probably
favorite.
The best defense we've played.
They're a top 25 unit. Yeah.
And
I think
played actual teams.
Yeah. And I think Minnesota played up to the occasion, because I just think Minnesota knew we were going to come in there a little overconfident. I feel like they felt that
every time.
I feel like that's every time we play Minnesota, we go in there a little overconfident, feeling ourselves. And I think that's where Matt Rhule needed to step in and not be surprised at the fact that we're looking at this team like they're nobody. He should have known that from before. Hey, he has to prepare his guys this season to be ready to prepare for that Minnesota game and every game leading up to it. You can't just look. I understand they don't want to look ahead, right? But in a microcosm of a season, you got to look at the schedule as a whole and see how we're going to approach each and every single week. And there needed to be clear direction leading into that Minnesota game, and clear direction starting in that Maryland game. We're going to start to impact the game in these areas to get ready for the physicality that we're going to face on the road Friday night in Minnesota. And none of that was there. And it still seems to be a little reactionary as opposed to, and that just can't happen at this point in his tenure here. And Matt Rhule, for all intents and purposes, I am not out on Matt Rhule. That does not.
No, I'm not either.
I'm not one of those guys that flip-flops like that. Matt Rhule, I still think, is the right guy for the job. And I actually like the fact that he was pissed off. I felt that in his tone. I just don't like how careful he tries to be in the way he expresses it. I think he's just got to really come out and just say it for what it is. It's not as simple as saying we're not good enough. We know that, right? Come out and tell us legitimately this, and this. And here's what we're going to do to fix it. We didn't get what we're going to do to fix it. We're going to come out, we're going to play better, and you're all going to see on Saturday. And if we don't play well, boo us. But what are you going to do different? What is it this week that we're doing differently that we haven't done in previous weeks? Because something there, some ball is being dropped somewhere in some room. You talked about the communication. Something as simple as that, come out and say, here's what we're going to do to fix these communication errors. Here's what we're going to do to fix this. And that way you don't have to sugarcoat and kind of tiptoe around it as much.
I think some of this blame has to fall on Dana too. Yeah. Because last week or 2 weeks ago against Maryland, what'd you do to slow down their rush? You ran the ball. Why? Because the edges get upfield and you run underneath them. You didn't really try to do that. And Minnesota does not have a great edge rusher outside of, I think it was number 0?
Yeah.
There's
I think
one
so. I forget
guy
his
that
name.
was pretty solid.
At 2.5 sacks.
Yeah. But other than that, they were not a great pass rushing team, and you didn't really try to run the ball. But also, what are you doing to combat your issues on the offensive line? Now, I think we're really seeing the impact of Janiron Bonner being out because he was a physical presence on the outside. You can motion him, you can use him all over, an inline tight end, in the slot. But more so, you're seeing a big impact not having Mac Markway, because that is his specialty.
Have you seen what like Nate Borkature has been doing at A&M? Every time they need a big play, Borkature is there to make it.
Yeah, I don't understand why they let him walk, or if that was just like, hey, I want to get away, I want to try something for my final year, and that's fine. But if there was any possibility of him staying, there is zero reason why he should not be on this roster.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think like when he left, I texted my buddy who's an A&M fan, and he texted me like 2-3 weeks ago when he caught the game-winning touchdown. He was like, "You were so right about Nate Borkature." I was like, "I know." The dude may not be the biggest playmaker, but when you need a guy to step up and make a play, he's always there. And he's a good all-around tight end. Like, he just does the little things well.
Too.
And I feel like we're missing the guys who do the little things well right now. We're missing the grinders and the guys who do the little things well.
And that's what Minnesota does so well, is the little things. Granted, they were super handsy on the offensive line, but that was my big thing, was like, my coworker and I were talking today. He's like, what happened? And I go, here's the thing. We're in year 3. I don't know who we are. Yeah. And that to me is a huge red flag. That is a huge concern, is I don't know who we are on offense. I don't know what our identity is. We have an air raid coach who's kind of faded away from his roots. The terminology of Marcus Satterfield mixed with his playbook, instead of just running his offense. And I think that's probably that decision has been a bigger issue than what has not been made of.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah.
Like, I would rather Dana just bring his shit here. This is the way I do things. This is my terminology. You guys are going to learn it. All right. Yeah. Every other coach does that.
Whether it's too complicated or not, like, bring it in, implement it, and make it work. Because at that point, it's like, are you the CEO of the team and letting them operate the offense or not? And if it is, on Holgorsen, he's kind of doing this himself, which I doubt. But it very well could be. Then why? Like, of all of his experience, he should know more than anybody, like, when enough is enough, and in the middle of the game to just say, screw this, throwing all this out the window, we're changing everything up. We didn't do that. And that's the problem. We talk about second half adjustments, year 1 and year 2. Year 3 is definitely the year we're supposed to be making. And we saw a little bit of the second half adjustments in Maryland. Maryland second half, played really well. In this Minnesota game, and he said we weren't ready for when it turned into a dogfight, or when it turned into when they got physical. And I tweeted right after they scored their first touchdown. I don't know if you saw this, but I said, this game just turned into a dogfight. And from that point on, we got beat up. After that first touchdown, during that first touchdown drive for them, that was when the game turned into a dogfight. That was very early on in the game. And from that point forward, that's when the team should have been ready. That's the moment the team should have been ready for, because I knew that moment was coming, because that's why I tweeted that out. I'm like, okay, I knew at some point this game was going to be a dogfight. I didn't know how early it was going to start, but it happened to be right there early in the game. And that was when I was like, okay. And then I texted you a little bit later, out of the first half, I said, we have to be the team that scores first. It was 7-6, and I said that. We have to be the team that scores first. And look what happened.
It felt like it was even though it was a 1-score or 1-point game, it felt like 10. Because you could see the way that the game was unfolding.
If we can feel that and sense that as fans, and if I can feel that and sense that as a fan, like, how can they not be prepared for that as a staff when this is their focus and all they do and all their job is to get them ready for that moment when that game turns into a dogfight. I don't care about how they feel before the game coming into it, how they are on the sideline early on. I care about how they respond when they know that moment comes, because as soon as you get punched in the mouth, that should be the moment that wakes you up the most. Like for me, my former coach hated this, but for me, it always took me taking a big for me to press the pace, because it was like that big shot that I took woke me up and got me into the fight, right? And it was like up until that point, I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna sit on the outside, I'm gonna pick up, try to pick it apart. And that when that doesn't work and you get clocked in the chin, okay, now we're in this fight. And then that's when I'm not gonna say your ego, but that's when you're like, okay, your fight or flight response kicks in. Like, this team had to be prepared that, like, as soon as they punch us in the mouth, they're going to want to knock us out. We cannot let that happen. And if he's talking about the staff saying, why are you crowning them all that? Why didn't he stop that right then and be like, hold up, hold. What are you talking about?
And you do it publicly too.
That should have been
in front
addressed
of the team
there. Yes.
Yeah.
With everybody. They should have, like you said, it should have been addressed with everybody right then in that moment. Like, I don't even want a semblance of that thought being spread around here. So where the hell did you get that from? Why are you saying that? And that's when somebody should have been held accountable.